with Agents of Fandom, joined by director of the Fantastic Four First Steps, Matt Shakman. Thanks so much for joining me, Matt.
Hey, great to be here.
My first question for you is about the Silver Surfer. She looks so cool. And I want to know what inspired the choice to go with a lesser known Silver Surfer with Shalla-Bal and not the more known to fans Silver Surfer, Norrin Radd. And did it have anything to do with, he was already in a semi-recent Fantastic Four film?
Earth X, was where Shalla-Bal was introduced, and it's a different universe, and we were doing something in a different universe on a different Earth, so it kind of made sense. But there's also just so much about Shalla-Bal's story that is similar to some of the other elements in our movie in terms of family and this idea of sacrifice. And it just felt like a new avenue, a new way to explore, and it opened up some interesting storylines with Johnny as well. And yeah, her design is incredible. Worked very closely with Ryan Meinerding, who runs visual development at Marvel, on her look for a long time. And then it was rendered by a couple of amazing vendors, primarily Sony Pictures Imageworks, took on a lot of her, as well as Framestore. And we wanted to bring in elements of like old mirrors, copper veining and the tarnish, because she's been surfing space for millions and millions of years. And then we also worked with professional female surfers to kind of help inform the movement of her. And then just for me, shamelessly, I wanted to give her a chance to surf as many cool things as possible. So in this movie, she's surfing lava, she's surfing a wormhole, she surfs a neutron star, she surfs water. She does, it's just a chance to really embrace the surferness.
The Fantastic Four First Steps takes place in a 60s inspired retro futuristic universe, and you also directed WandaVision, which takes Wanda through, all of these different decades with her magic. If you could take another Marvel character or team and put them in another totally different period of time for the third time, who would be your favorite choice to kind of take on somebody in that lens?
I mean, it's a really interesting question. I mean, there's something wonderful about putting the Fantastic Four back in this 60s environment, because that's where they were created, right? And it's very much the space race is in their DNA, the sense of optimism and idealism, and the idea that technology and the right heart, the right mind can solve anything. Like, it felt like the right place to put them. And I think there's probably a multitude of comic book characters where putting them in that place made sense. And for WandaVision, this idea of putting Wanda and Vision, who hunger for a normal life, who hunger for the sort of standard suburban life, which was so brilliantly done in Tom King's The Visions, run that he did when Vision had his family living in suburbia. It was just like, it felt like the right place to put them. So I would have to do a deep dive into other comics characters to sort of figure out where you could put them that would feel most to their point of origin, or most to where, they want to be as characters themselves.
When you were building the set for this universe that the Fantastic Four is living in, were there any non-Marvel media pieces that like inspired the look of the universe?
Yes, and when we talked about this as being where Kirby meets Kubrick. So how do you bring the vivid imagination and the amazing artwork of Jack Kirby to life? Really wanted to honor him. He's such an inspiring figure to me, and was one of the creators, along with Stan Lee, of the Fantastic Four. And mixing that with Kubrick, who is this amazing futurist. 2001 is one of my favorite films, and it's incredible visually, and the way it depicts space. And so putting those things together was really our governing idea. But we also had, the influence of Sid Mead, who was a concept artist of that time. We were looking at movies about space like Apollo 13, Right Stuff, Interstellar. We were looking at movies of the 60s because we really wanted to make it feel authentic. We were looking at The Graduate and The French Connection and James Bond movies. And we basically did as much research as we could to create a world that felt both authentic, but also inspired by the futurists of that era. What did they imagine the future would look like? And then we had the pleasure of making our 60s actually look like what they imagined the future would look like.
Recent promos for the movie have paid homage to some of the team's early comic book villains like Giganto, like Mole Man. But you also recently revealed that you had to cut John Malkovich's Red Ghost from the film. What was his take on the character like? Was it dark, comedic, and did he have any input on the character?
Oh, for sure. He's a brilliant actor. He's one of my favorite people, and he was amazing in this. The Red Ghost that he brought to life was was funny, yes, but also grounded in reality. And he's a great character who comes from the space race as well. And it makes sense as a villain to include in a Fantastic Four movie that is so much about this kind of Apollo 11 era, is to also include the sort of the Russian cosmonaut who's trying to sort of beat them into space. Unfortunately, we just we had so many things we were trying to introduce: a whole new world, a whole new universe, as well as four main characters, two other major villains. There was a lot going on, and we just didn't have the landscape ultimately to devote to John's amazing work as Red Ghost.
Thank you so much, Matt. Fantastic Four is in theaters July 25th. Fantastic Four at First Steps, that is. Thank you so much for your time, and good luck with the film.
Thank you so much.